Well, hundreds of activists from citizens' movements and youth groups protested against Rwanda last Monday in Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo. They are accusing Kigali of backing the M23 rebel group in the eastern parts of the DRC. The UN and the Congolese forces have long battled to keep the violence in the east under control, which is fueled by dozens of armed groups and compounded by national and ethnic conflicts. Joining me now to unpack these developments further is independent Africa analyst Jean Bwasa. Jean, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Ntokozo, for welcoming us on Newzroom Afrika and really unearthing the conflict that is being going on in the Congo for the past 26 years.
I mean, you've mentioned that the conflict has been going on for 26 years. Kinshasa and Kigali have both endured quite the stormy and tumultuous relationship. But what exactly, Jean, is actually triggering the tensions that we're currently seeing between the two countries?
Well, what is triggering the conflict that we see right now in the eastern side of the Congo, but people tend to say it's the eastern side. It's the entire Congo that has been infiltrated from the top, from the presidency until the very grassroots of the Congo, where we have the Rwandan people that have become themselves Congolese through the level of Banyamulenge. And this has been done through a concept called Inyenzi. But to go straight to the matter, we must remember that the eastern side of the Congo is a part of the Congo where there are very strategic minerals, niobium, tantalite, and all these coltan which we use for our phones. Hence, the Rwandan regime has got a hand on those minerals, including the oil that is in the lake. So we think that it is very important, as the activists and the younger generation of the Congolese have risen up, to bring back the peace and the war where it started. Because in our African cosmogony, we just say that you can't go and disinfect a river by the bottom. There has been several dialogues and conventions and agreements on the Congo, and namely one of them was the Addis Ababa in 2013, which normally asked the Congolese to back down, but the time has evolved and now we are rising, the Congolese people are rising to defend their country and the integrity of their country. And I think it's a good sign to see after so many years of suffering and what we call the Congo side. While we are talking about the Russian-Ukraine war, it is very important as Africans to stay off all the conflicts that are happening in our own continent.
Talking about the integrity that you say the youth are trying to establish or bring back to the Congo, we know that there is a security issue certainly in the Congo, and one that the Congolese believe Kigali is backing. Why would they have these assertions? Why would they make such claims?
Well, we must remember that during the 1994, when there was the Rwandan genocide, they call it the Rwandan genocide, the people that were backing or supporting Habyarimana, who was then the president, the FDLR, they fled into the Congo, and they have been sometimes attacked by the Rwandan that have disguised in many organizations, the M23 we speak now, and they kept on changing names, the Banyamulenge and so on and so forth. And one of the reasons for which the Rwandan have been coming to Congo is mainly to kill and to slaughter the FDLR that are mainly Hutu people. But not only that, they wanted also, and they want to erase all the Hutu people, the Bantu people in the eastern side of the Congo, the tribes that are in the eastern side of the Congo, the Nande, the Nyanga, the Embo, the Shi, the Vera, the Fulero, the Bembe, so that the Rwandan will occupy that territory. And it is really ironical that today, Rwanda, who claims, and Kagame, who claims that his country is tiny and he would bring the war into the Congo, can go to England and negotiate a deal where he's taking all the migrants from from England to bring them in Rwanda while he doesn't have a space, and he can't get back the Hutu people that are in the Congo. And this is what is triggering the conflict for many years. So it's about time to ask the Congolese people to rise up and also defend our land as this the matrix of the entire universe, with all the minerals that we have, with all the fauna and the flora that is very important and strategic for each and every human on Earth to breathe the air that is fresh, to breathe the air while we're talking about climate change. Congo plays a great role in that.
Well, Jean, Kigali has said that if things don't change, they are planning to retaliate with some or other form of an offensive attack. You are encouraging the Congolese to rise up and defend themselves. African leaders, on the other hand, are actually calling for mediation talks. They still believe that there is an alternative route that can still take place in this instance and avert any kind of war talk. I mean, what do you say to that, to the call that's being made to African leaders to try and avert any kind of an invasion, any kind of retaliation, certainly on the part of Rwanda?
Well, I did mention that we have had so many dialogues on the Congo. The one that I mentioned was the Addis Ababa. But I can go further. We had here what we call the Congolese dialogue in 2002 and 2003, which actually brought what they call the peace in the Congo. But if we speak Congo in the peace and what we call democracy today, we must remember that Congo at one given time had a chief of army who was from Rwanda, James Kabarebe. We must remember that Congo has suffered for many years of all these infiltrated Rwandans that are part of the army, part of the police, So the state capture here is nothing compared to what we have in the Congo. That is the complete country capture, where a Congolese does not even have a citizenship as per se as a Congolese. So it's very important. We appreciate that the African leaders would like to take a stand to bring peace, but that peace can but only be negotiated through what we will, with Dr. Mukwege, who was the Nobel Peace Prize, through what we call a judiciary, an inquest on the atrocities that have been committed in the Congo, and that amounts to 12 million people killed, 450,000 women raped on a monthly basis in the Congo, children soldiers. So we can name all the atrocities that have been committed in the Congo. And as we celebrate in South Africa the 1976 uprising of the Soweto youth movement with Balala Moyeni, such as Teti Mashinini, it's very important that if really we want, the African leaders want to bring peace in the Congo, it must start where it started. That is Rwanda, who invaded the Congo, and continue to be pulling the guns onto the Congo. Also, the international organizations such as the UN. I must recall that when we are talking between the dialogue where Tshisekedi met with João Manuel Concalves Lourenço of Angola, it's very important to remember that João was the then Minister of Defense in 2015-2017, where he went to the Pentagon and met with Jim Mattis. And all these search and quest for peace must normally start and stop the mercenaries of Rwanda that are being used by the multinational as well as few individuals that are key leaders in the world. And these are things that we are not talking about because we only see the tip of the iceberg, but we don't see the underlying drivers of what is going on in the Congo that has caused the Congo side. I usually call it the Congo side and not a genocide in the Congo because nobody has ever talked about the Congo side. I'm a Balala Moyeni, as I speak now, for the Congolese to rise up and defend their lands.
Sure. You know, it's been 28 years since the Rwandan genocide, and as we've had the conversation, seemingly the inception of these tensions between the two countries. You've mentioned that what could likely help appease some of the grievances that have been raised by the Congolese, some sort of a judicial inquiry to look into these atrocities. You essentially are saying that the Congo is looking for a recognition for what was lost and what was taken from their end. What other means or measures can possibly be put in place to try and quell this growing and simmering tension between the two countries? Because we are talking about the East African community that also stands to lose quite a bit from the continued instability because of these two countries.
Well, prior to us speaking about the African organization, we could call about the eastern side. We can talk about the SADC, and Congo belongs to the SADC. It has recently joined the eastern side, and I wonder whether the Congolese people were actually asked through a referendum whether they wanted to join the eastern side of the Congo. And we are saying that these are manipulative agenda by Kagame, by Museveni, and by the Tanzanian president. It is very important as we speak now that the Congolese people actually must question all these conventions that have been signed without their consent. We cannot, because we are a leader or a president, sign consent without consulting the citizens of the country. So who's going to lose here? If we today we say we seize and we do not want to be associated with any country that is an upper end in the atrocities committed in the Congo. The only way to achieve that is to call on the nationalists, such as we call about the late Laurent Désiré Kabila, who said that the war will be long and it will become popular and it shall return where it started. So these are the time, as we speak now, as Congolese, to end these atrocities, but the only way is to have the negotiation that will bring the children of the Congo with those that are nationalists against those that have ostracized us for many years. We are tired. We are sick and tired of what has happened in the Congo, but the only way to do that is to bring a neutral people, and those that are in the Congo and that conceive themselves as Congolese must go on their side. The Banyamulenge, for instance, we call the Ruberwa, the Kabila that have been ruling that country, that are not Congolese. This is the truth. Why aren't we telling the truth and saying, I'm not Congolese, but I was in the action in the Congo to destabilize this country, and now it's about time that the Congolese recover their dignity and their integrity as we get a sense of what we call emancipation and reclaiming our own land for the abundance that will normally generate peace, that will yield security for each and every child, each and every human on this earth. Because without Congo, the world will collapse. And many of these multinationals are benefiting. I have had conversation with some of them, are benefiting from the riches that are in the Congo. But you can't just get the riches without taking into account the human beings that are in the Congo, the owner of those riches.
Right. Jean, thank you so much. We are going to have to leave it there. That's independent analyst Jean Bwasa joining us on the line there to unpack those simmering tensions between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. Rwanda threatening in the latest development to attack with some sort of retaliation if things don't get any better. Well,